Hello friends. Today I'm going to be talking about the emotional spectrum and how we confuse this emotional body, this whole entity that is the emotions, that is our feelings, how we confuse them to be separated, segregated, and fragmented. Yes, we actually describe portions of or states of being in our emotional spectrum or emotional body as being separate from another emotion. So, say for instance that you're feeling stress, right? So, stress is probably somewhere around this orange area. It's rooted in fear and lack. So, when your portion of consciousness is concentrated on that fear and lack that's around here per se and is a fairly slow, low vibratory frequency, then the more that you hone in and only reinforce that state of being with your thoughts, actions, deeds, words, speech, whatever, you can reinforce that feeling many ways and infinite ways, really. So the more that we hone in on that feeling of stress here, the less that we're actually able to access something higher, because there is infinite possibility and truth is always true no matter where truth is. It's always there. Truth is always true. So that also means that feelings are also feelings no matter where you're at. Like, you can choose to feel, you can choose to identify with that feeling of stress, or you can choose to identify with something higher, maybe say for instance ease, or choose to identify with the idea that you don't have to stress about it, or that it's not your problem, or you don't have to take responsibility for that. So that's a lot more light. That's a lot less a burden on yourself, and it's a lot less heavy. Like, heaviness is definitely towards the red and orange spectrum, but as you go up on the spectrum, you're gonna feel lighter. You're gonna feel more freedom. You're gonna feel more energy move through you, and excitement and love, and just the more you go up on the spectrum, you're going to feel more elated and less physical, really. You're going to feel less dense, less structured, and less contained and confined and contracted. You will feel more and more expansive. So the thing that we confuse with the most is that we just depict and describe our state of being in with thoughts, and we tell people, oh yeah, I feel sad today because so and so, because this and that. That's your choosing, because you can also choose to change that perception and attitude towards a feeling of, or a thought or a belief that you actually don't need to be worrying about this, or you don't actually need to be sad about this, because you know that life is infinite and life will continue to go on, and that you are responsible for any and all things that happen in your life and no one else's. So, you can tell yourself and affirm to yourself any number of ways, but what you ultimately want to become is, you want to be able to observe that you're feeling sad, because when you observe and you can be aware that you are seeing a feeling, you are aware of a sadness or a discontent or a depression within you. When you're able to perceive that, it means that you are not it. It means that you are actually aware of it to the point where you can do something about it. You can actually move your awareness, instead of being sad and stressed, you can move your awareness to something up here where, I actually am free, and I'm actually can do and think as I want to think, and nobody else is my state of being, my emotional spectrum. Nobody else has dictate or responsibility over that, because your emotional spectrum is effectively your emotional body. It's your energy field, and everybody has an own energy field, but all energy fields operate under the same mechanics. So people confuse this idea that people feel what other people feel, but it's just that we are all operating under the same mechanics, the same underlying spectrum and complete theory and kind of structure of this body. And we get confused with that because we think that other people can feel what we feel, and other people do feel what we feel, and that is possible. But it's also disempowering when you are feeling other people's feelings, and you cannot ultimately detach yourself from somebody else's sad feeling and bring your own vibration up. Because once you can bring your awareness to that you are perceiving sadness, you can also choose to perceive appreciation and gratitude, which is around here in the middle point. And you can also appreciate something that that life is sacred, and life is ultimately up to you, and you have an ability to make a decision in each and every moment. Excuse me. So the emotional spectrum is what it's something that we always describe, and something we always try to make sense of. But the emotional spectrum is not linear, in that it's mechanical in a way that it has a form and function, but it's not mechanical in the way that it's linear, and it's not a particularly confined to a step-by-step process. Like, you don't have to go from fear and like ultimate death and grief to shame about that, and then guilt about that. You can go from fear of death to the highest at any moment, and you can jump and quantum leap your vibration and just change it just like in a moment's notice, to the feeling that you are eternal, that you are ever present, that you are everlasting, you are immortal, you are constant, you are always existent. So it doesn't have to be, so like monotonous or rigorous or mundane. Like, you don't have to climb this, like it's some obstacle. Like, you may feel like it's an obstacle for you to jump from fear and lack to abundance and joy up here, but it's only so much an obstacle for you if you cannot perceive that you are aware that you are believing something in lack. This is ultimately rooted in beliefs, because your thoughts are ultimately comprised of what your beliefs are, and what meaning you derive from reality, from what meaning you derive from your interpretation of existence and your interpretation of circumstances, scenarios, and also your emotions. So what you believe about your interpretation of things is what is going to be the ultimate factor and the limiting factor for you to rise and jump up from high to low, or low to high if you want. So what you believe and what you're talking and speaking to yourself, dialoguing, commiserating, like this internal dialogue that's going on is consonant with your belief system, with the meaning that you gain from your interpretation of your emotions. And it's not only emotions, again, it's anything. It's your interpretation of everything. And your interpretation of it will reflect your in the vibratory state. It will reflect your state of being, because if you interpret a situation as fearful, or something that you are without, or something that you are lacking, then you are putting meaning onto that scenario or circumstance or feeling that it is only available to you conditionally. It's only a condition for you to feel joyful and feel happy. Like the meaning and the freedom and the ability and the choice for you to choose something that is ultimately more freeing and liberating is based on a condition that you need something in order to feel that. So if there's a barrier and there's a obstacle before you, and you can't perceive and you can't get to this feeling of joy on the other side, then that there is an ultimate awareness that it would be beneficial if you turned your awareness back at where you're looking from rather than what you're looking at. Because if you're looking at the emotion, if you're looking at the circumstance, the scenario, the external reality, if you're looking at the interpretation of the emotion, you're not looking at where you're looking from. Where you're looking from is ultimately what is going to be in your own free will. To an extent, we can't control our emotions. With free will, to an extent, our emotions are out of our free will, but it is our attitude and it is our interpretation of those emotions and it's our beliefs about those emotions and our thoughts about those emotions that are going to give us a greater perspective and an expanded like view that we can actually see over the obstacle, and we can actually see that actually what I want on the other side of that barrier and that obstacle is actually over here. I don't need to go through that. I can go over here and feel the same way, and there's no resistance, there's no blockage, there's no limiting factor there. So there is only one emotional body